What is going on, guys? Back for another MLB breakdown show. Caught me a little bit early today. I didn't realize. I kind of thought there was kind of maybe a split slate. I guess there still is, but the DraftKings is classifying the early slate here as the main at 110. So we'll hop on that. I think there's good prize pools on both slates, but there's 4 games at 110 and then 3 tonight starting at 6:35 before we get into a big full weekend of baseball. So I'm going to go over the main slate today, which includes some decent pitching options and then some spots that I think you can definitely attack from a hitting perspective. So before I get into that, if you have not been watching the shows over the last week, be sure to check out the description of the video. It's got a link to our site, has all of our subscriptions, and we did a little updating to that. So there's some football packages if you guys aren't members. That includes college football and NFL. And then there's also a soccer early bird package that starts tomorrow with the showdown as we get into EPL season. So in addition to that, we also have a partnership with Ship It Nation. If you guys haven't checked them out, we've got 15% off a monthly package there with them with code Jager15. And if you use the links in the description, that's going to take you right to it and auto include that code. And you also get a free week trial with that code. So you can get 7 days and no cost to really see if you like it and want to stick around with them. So going to hop right in. I don't have a ton of time today. I've got to be done here in about 20 minutes. So I'm going to do the same format that we've been doing, which is go through pitching, briefly touch on some bats, and then go over to SaberSim and play around with some builds and see what we're getting to pop out. Top of pricing today, we've got the Dodgers going up against Milwaukee, and that gives us Jack Flaherty, their new addition, pitching for them today. Definitely the top overall pitcher on the slate if you can get up to him. I think you can. So definitely going to be SP1 for me in the single entry that I run today. Logan Webb gets what had been a decent matchup against Atlanta, and then they went off last night against a pitcher that I played, Robbie Ray. So now we come back and we get Logan Webb, who I think, could be a drop for Atlanta here. Maybe they go back to how they have been. So I think Webb's in play. Not going to be a guy that I prioritize, but I kind of want to see where I land as far as pricing before I make a decision, probably on SP2, and we'll maybe see where we are coming out on SaberSim as to where we're going to land for SP2. Bryce Miller would be next as Seattle goes up against Detroit on the road. He's an interesting option, I think. He can give up some big games just due to his fly ball rate. As we look at, let's zoom in on him a little bit here. So if you look at his fly ball rate, 43% on the season, which is pretty much double that of Max Fried and Logan Webb. So, that could make him prone to more, blow up outings, but the matchup's decent against Detroit. I would be worried probably about the lefties there going up against him today, and maybe you could look at a mini stack if he's going to be popular. We'll take a look at where ownership's going a little bit as well when we go over to SaberSim. Max Fried is on the other side of the Logan Webb matchup going up against San Francisco. I think he's definitely in play. He coming off a not so great start in Coors. He gets San Francisco here, and I think the price tag is good. So if I had to lean right now, if Locke was in the next few minutes, I would probably be going Flaherty Fried if I could could make that work. The cheap tier of pricing doesn't really interest me a whole lot. I think the only guy that I have in projections here are bearing that out a little bit with Quintana up against Oakland. I think you can go there at home. I think he would be the only cheap guy that I play under 8K. I don't want to get to Faedo, Spence, or Myers. It don't really interest me. We'll kind of see. I want to stay in the top 4 of pitching, with definitely Flaherty in there 1, and then probably Fried is who I'm leaning at. But we'll see. I think Webb would be my 3rd right now, and then Bryce Miller. I'll go ahead and highlight Quintana. If you need the salary savings, he's really the only guy for me here. As far as bats, we flip over. Not a lot of totals here on the slate. You do have the Mets, who are going up against that Oakland. Really, just the overall pitching staff is not very good for the most part. So they get Mitch Spence to start, who doesn't strike anybody out, 19% K rate. Does keep the ball on the ground a decent clip, but I think they can definitely get to him. And if you look at, I'm going to pull up, I did this the other day, just kind of pulling up over the last couple months, or maybe even since July 1, and take a look at the bullpens specifically. Yeah, so still Oakland is 12th, 12th worst bullpen. Let's see, Detroit. Let's see where Detroit, Milwaukee come out. This is since 7-1, and I'm looking at XFIP. So Detroit, Milwaukee. Detroit's 10th worst, so it's actually slightly worse. Milwaukee, 19th, kind of mid-pack. So no blow-up bullpens really here on this slate. Let's see. So back to the bats. New York, the Mets have the highest implied run total on the slate today in that matchup. Then you got the Dodgers and Seattle right neck and neck at 4.25. And then it drops down where pretty much everybody is the same. So I'll be interested to see how Saber pumps this out today. If pricing wasn't a thing, I think I would lean towards the Dodgers here in a solid matchup against Tobias Myers and Milwaukee. If you look at the sheet here, Myers is outperforming his xFIP by over a full run, so that screams a little bit of regression for me there. Other guys that are like that, Quintana's slightly outperforming, but not very much. Faedo is pretty close to that as well. So I currently would have LA number 1 for me in terms of stack. Then you've got the Mets probably 2. And then I think it's really going to spread out. It's going to try to grab some leverage. So let's see, what it is doing. I think it's going to try to grab some leverage on these bats and go up against what are the chalk pitchers. So let's first off start with pitching. Flaherty looking to be close to 50% on, Fried about the same. So that is the chalk pairing as of now. Quintana's getting quite a bit of ownership, so I think that could be a way. I talked about he'd be the only cheap pitcher that I would go to, but maybe you go a mini stack against him if he's going to get over 30% ownership. Same thing with Bryce Miller. We talked about his fly ball rate and how he could give up, some bombs. And, I think you could go to a mini Detroit stack. So maybe that's something that I'm going to expect to see pop out of Saber here when we run teams. Logan Webb, would be next in terms of ownership. So I think still feel about the same with the rankings that I just talked about with pitcher, Flaherty, Fried, Webb, and then if you need to go cheap, Quintana. But I kind of like the staying in those first three that I mentioned, and then maybe getting some leverage with Oakland or Detroit to pair that up with a New York Met stack or a Dodgers stack. And I'm really leaning towards that Dodgers stack here. So let's see if we're getting any discrepancies in our projected runs versus Sabres. And LA is neck and neck with Seattle and the Mets. Sorry, here at 4.8 on Sabre, where it was slightly lower than that for LA and Seattle on our sheet. And if you go down, then it pretty much is the same, whereas everybody is spread out in terms of projected runs on the simulations on Sabre. So let's run some stuff just kind of with the base info. We're going to look at, I'm going to run single entry today. Let me see what some of the contests are. They've always got the 12 and the 5 single entry. Yep, they've got the 12, the 25. I'll probably be in those today, the 12 and the 5 and the 25 single entry. So we're looking at even the $5 only has 1,400 entrants. So we'll run it on 1 to 10,000, 49,000 in salary. I don't like leaving a ton of salary, even on short slates. Don't like playing against my pitcher. So let's just run it, see what we get, what's popping out to start, and then maybe we'll need to do some adjusting on some pitchers here. If we're getting a ton of Jose Quintana, I'll probably be surprised, to be honest. Even though he projects decently, I think I would rather have the leverage, and I think Sabre's going to tell us that they want the leverage too, but we'll see. All right, so we'll start just with the top 20 teams, and we'll zoom in on those and see kind of what we're getting here in terms of exposure. So in terms of pitcher, if you look at, oh man, we're getting a ton of Quintana. Okay. Highest owned out of those top 20 is Quintana and then Fried, Flaherty. So kind of stays in line with what I would want outside of Quintana. If you go to stacks, 5-man stacks, we're getting a lot of Atlanta. That's interesting. And LA. So it's popping out of Atlanta going up against San Francisco and Logan Webb, which is interesting. So I'm slightly different here, of course. Detroit is the other team that we got some stacks with. So that was one that I talked about of going up against Bryce Miller. So I do like that we're getting quite a bit of mini stacks of Detroit. Just to look at kind of the base team there, you're getting a 4-4 of Atlanta and Detroit, and with Fried and Flaherty there. Can Atlanta keep the hot streak from last night? Maybe. I would lean to myself in the pitching side of that with San Francisco, but with Logan Webb, but that's just me. 4-4 stacks. We got a little bit of LA, Atlanta, Detroit. I really want to see what a team looks like with LA 5-man, Detroit 3-man, or even a 4-4, and look at something like that. So let's zoom in on these teams here, see what we got 3-mans. We didn't get any 3-mans. We got, what do we get, 1-1-1s? We got some 2-mans. So there's a 2-man Detroit. Let's look at those to just start. It looks like it's going to one off a few different options. So you got Quintana, Flaherty, and then you've got a 5-man LA with Mookie and Ohtani. And then you got Baddoo and Dingler for Detroit. Let's see here. I'm going to switch back over. I'm not going to switch my screen over to the sheet and look at this Detroit lineup a little bit. So Detroit. All right, so Henry Malloy, Carpenter, Keith, Dingler at catcher. Yeah, I would lean towards the lefties there, which could be Baду. Dingler is just cheap, I think. I mean, that whole lineup is cheap if you want to go a mini stack there. And if you look recently, I'm going to run one more thing. I like to run, in addition to our sheet, which is looking at mostly full season, looks at kind of general last 7 days. Also pull up Baseball Savant and look at different time frames against righties versus lefties. If you look at on our sheet, I'll go ahead and switch back. If you look at this batter versus daily split, this is across the entire season for these guys. So out of those, Carpenter has been the best over the entire season with a very solid WOBA. Same with Madras, and then the ISO would be the best for Carpenter. So Carpenter looks like a really good play. Let's see how he looks like since 7-1 on Savant. We'll see what this team looks like. I like to try to catch hot streaks in baseball. So I like to use this in conjunction, and Carpenter looks great still over that time period. Dingler looks very solid. Parker Meadows, the lefty there, he looks really solid. He's only 3,100 in the outfield. Colt Keith is decent. Baду hasn't been very good, as you can see. So Carpenter's the most expensive bat. I think you could definitely stack up that team for some leverage. We don't have the Dodgers lineup yet. We do have New York and we do have Oakland. Let's look at this Oakland, and it, of course, sped out. But let's look at this Oakland. It'll come back in here in just a second. This Oakland, get rid of this. Look at some Oakland stacks. Gave us a few in the pool, gave us some 5-mans. Let's just see who it's popping there. So Flaherty Freed with Atlanta and Oakland. Same thing, we can look at versus lefties. Oakland since 7-1 or 6-1. They've cooled off some. And again, if he's going to get this popular, if Quintana is going to get this popular, I don't hate the idea of looking at this lineup and seeing where we can come out. So batter versus daily split. Daz Cameron looks really good. Lawrence Butler is not today. Let's see here. And Duhar looks decent. Rooker's not in the lineup either. This is a little bit of a watered down lineup. So that's probably part. JJ Bleday looks really good. Really, those are the main two. So if Quintana can get through Daz Cameron, JJ Bleday, maybe Nevin, and just talking about guys that have been hot. When he gets to the back end of this lineup, they've been horrendous. They're not striking out a ton towards the back end other than Geloff, but I think Quintana, I get why he's going to be popular, but maybe you go either way. You play Quintana or you play like a Daz Cameron, JJ Bleday stack. at 3K and 3,800 in the outfield and go from there. But I'm going to have to hop off. It's again, I'm pinched a little bit for time here. Again, just to summarize, and I'll have my core posted here in the next couple hours in the chat as I dig in more and more. But as of right now, I lean towards Flaherty Freed being my preferred pitching combo. Unless you need salary, then you could go down to Quintana. But I do like getting leverage. In terms of stacks, the Dodgers would be one. The Mets and Seattle are neck and neck for me. I don't have a huge preference, but I kind of like the idea of mini stacking either Detroit or Oakland for some, gives you some value and gives you some leverage both altogether. So really like that in terms of bats. So we'll see kind of where that comes out. And good luck to everybody today. Short slate. We'll be back. Hopefully I'll have a show again tomorrow for a bigger main slate on Friday. Good luck to everybody. And let's have a good start to Thursday here and continue it into the evening slate as well. See y'all next time.